Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Advice from a Call Center Geek, the call center and contact center podcast. We try to give you some actionable items to take back in your contact center, improve the overall quality, improve the agent experience. In this episode, hopefully we can improve your technology a little bit because the overall theme here, right, we want to improve the customer experience. What's going on, everybody? It's good to be back on the pod on Advice from a Call Center Geek. We've been doing a lot of webinars and things with auto and demos and getting some really cool feedback with that. Having said that, I think I'm hearing a lot of frustration out there as I do demos with auto, as I talk about Expedia with companies looking now to kind of outsource here for the holidays and getting into first quarter. And the question is, again, this ongoing thing of what is real, what is not real when it comes to AI. I've done a lot of, I guess maybe earlier in the year, we discussed this a little bit, but I think things have evolved. I want to focus as well on the kind of that SMB contact center. So again, I don't know what that really means. Under 1,000 seats, but probably focus more on under 100 seats, right? But I think anywhere in that 1,000 to, I don't know, 5, right? I'm talking about you. I'm not talking if you got 20,000 seats, all across the United States, you're not going to get a lot of value out of this. But, that 40-seat credit union, that, 500-seat BPO, all of these, I think, from everything that I've been researching, playing with, demoing, utilizing from an AI standpoint, hopefully I can kind of maybe add some value here to you as so many people are just so confused on what is going on. So let's kind of dive into this. And I got a bunch of notes here. So if you guys see me kind of looking off here to the right, I'm pretty prepared today. First thing is, we see a lot of AI evolution. We see a lot of larger contact centers, larger enterprises using AI. And I think that makes sense, right? Because to get ROI on AI when it comes to kind of that first touch point, chatbot, agent-facing, right, AI, you need volume, right? It's relative, especially if you're using a vendor, right? It's relatively still really expensive if you don't have a ton of volume to utilize that technology, right? To get the cost savings that you think you're going to get. Larger enterprises have that volume, right? They have, really millions and millions of interactions that, again, the numbers game really works for them. The other thing, they can spend the money either on the third party and get that technology in here, or they have the giant, 50, 100 person development team, and that's probably small for some of them, that can start to utilize these tools on their own. And again, still really expensive, but the ROI is going to be there just because of the volume play. So that's why you see, and I think you see so many companies, again, think they're falling behind. That's kind of the theme that we've seen. No one's falling behind in 2024. But you see kind of these massive cost savings that these companies are getting. But again, number one, they don't tell you what they paid for it or what the development cost of what that costs as well. So again, there's this premonition that that's what everyone's doing when really it's not. I will tell you the really cool thing, and I have to be kind of confidential here, but I was part of the CX1 Executive Customer Council, and there's very large organizations on that. Like, it's public knowledge. You can kind of go and see what companies are on there, but monster Fortune 500, Fortune 100, Fortune 10 companies, and then little old me, which is still pretty cool. But I will tell you, there's a Fortune 10 company that is just utilizing AI in a very small segment to test it out for their kind of AI council. And, they have struggles with it just from a guardrail standpoint and also from a data standpoint, right? They've been able to utilize a lot of their data, but it's so much data that it's not all clean. So sometimes it doesn't hallucinate, right? I think that's what we're starting to see now too, is again, there's the hallucination, but there's also, we're confusing our own AI just with the data that we have. So even from a larger enterprise standpoint, it's still a lot of kind of touch and go. I will tell you, in that group, no one's really just all in on AI right now. So let's just kind of put that to bed, other than to say, hey, we understand this technology is something different. We need to get on a path to start to utilize it. But how does this path look, especially if I'm a 10-seater, I'm a 50-seater, I'm a 200-seater, I'm a 700-seater, right? And I've been saying this from kind of the mountaintops. I think, there's a lot of really smart people that are starting to turn around and kind of see this as well. But if you go right now to the my chatbot is great.ai company, everybody's saying, hey, we can do AI really quick. Just give me an FAQ. We'll throw this on there. And that's when the garbage happens. Don't do that. Don't. I'm not saying there's not a lot of really good companies out there. There are, but if they're really good, they're crazy expensive, right? I'm not going to name any names. If you want to DM me, I can tell you about names. But for this, unless you're going to pay me to come on, right? I'm not going to really talk about too many companies. This is what you need to do in 2024, right? So forget about purchasing anything at this second, whether it is customer facing, whether it is kind of agent facing. Forget AI until you have kind of these things in order. Number one is you have full integrations into all your stuff, right? Your CCaaS, your data sets, your CRM, right? Anything that you guys can integrate, that's what you need to be working on in 2024 and getting into 2025. This will also give you a ton of cost savings because you're doing the integration, right? You're going to streamline a bunch of stuff that is probably a little bit frustrating for customers and probably for your agents as well. That is kind of leading to larger handle time. So forget about the AI savings. Let's get to the core root. Number one, integrate everything you can. Number two, no one has, from very large companies to very small companies, we're seeing this in our BPO, right? It's a real struggle. We're trying to come up. You saw me. I'm coming up with some tools to hopefully try to help with this, but you need to have a robust knowledge management system, a KMS. You need a repository for your data that is clean, right? That can be updated easily and that everybody kind of understands how it works, right? You can't have, I've seen so many companies try to do this, but they have 6 different departments all throwing a bunch of stuff in here and nobody's really looking at it. This is the number one holdback right now for AI for the vast majority of companies is the data, right? If you don't have the data to kind of either train or have the AI kind of read off of, right, then there's a struggle there. So, I think 2024, 2025, you're about to see some really cool tools come out in the KMS space. That's going to help a lot of companies out. But if you don't have a good KMS, forget about AI for right now, right? You're still doing AI and you're still working on that roadmap if you're working on your KMS, but it's vastly important. Let's just say that you have integrations, right? And let's say that you have a pretty good KMS, right? Then we have to start to think about things like what are some of the problems that you want to solve? AI has a lot of different tools for a lot of different use cases. Like you're not going to hear this from any technology guy, right? They're just going to start to sell you stuff. But let's talk about the different tools, right? If you want to lower your handle time, right? Then we're looking at more agent type tools. We're looking at maybe like an agent assist, right? Possibly an auto summarization to get rid of your after call work or your wrap if it's long, right? If you have a 20-second or a 15-second after call work with very limited memoing, then don't get auto summarization. Don't do that. Don't just buy a tool to have a tool, right? So that's one thing. If you want to look at, we need to raise our CSAT in our NPS, right? I think you can look at a tool like an agent assist, look at an auto QA, right? Really dig deeper into what you're happening now. Use AI more as an analytic tool than also as an agent assist tool, right? You can also look at some things like real-time sentiment and real-time kind of supervisor. I'm lost for the word, right? But looking at kind of real-time sentiment from a supervisory standpoint, right? So looking where supervisors now can see, right, if a call is going south from an agent standpoint or from a customer standpoint. Like I think those things are here. They're relatively mature, and you can utilize them. The other thing is we're running into this with auto QA is security and policies. A lot of companies don't know what their threshold is for AI, right? They don't know. What is the tolerance that they have for using it? How far can they push it? Do you have to have an internal LLM? Do Can you have a an outgoing LLM model where you can use a ChatGPT through APIs? What is the threshold that you're willing to do? And I think that's a company-wide decision that has to happen, right? If you start doing AI and you don't have a lot of these things in place, I think you're going to run into some issues. So, those are some things that need to be working before you kind of roll out your AI. The next thing is, how do you QA your AI? Do you ever think about that? Right? That's a question I ask in a lot of different meetings. Right. I think that's where kind of, again, an auto QA can kind of really go really well if you do have a customer facing, chatbot or some type of IVA. So think that through, right? How are you just going to do random, human calibrations with AI looking at transcripts? Are you going to use AI to do it? Are you going to use an auto QA? But you have to make sure that what your AI is saying is right. And I think that's kind of an advantage for a smaller company, right? Because there's not that many transactions. So you can kind of reel that in a little bit quicker than some of these larger organizations that are getting really nervous about where things could go. And one mistake could really cost them a ton of money. And the last thing I'm going to say is never take a demo for face value, right? If I show you an auto QA demo, I'm showing you live data. I'm doing things live. Most of these other companies, you have to make sure that you're asking a ton of questions, that you're going deep into it, that you get a chance to play with it before you pay for it. Most of them won't let you do that, right? There's a lot that kind of goes into it. So again, before you even start to think about what AI tool should you get, look and get your integrations in order. Number two, make sure you have a robust KMS and you have a process. It's not just setting up a KMS. What is the process for getting rid of data that is not good anymore, that is not correct? Putting in new data. How does that whole process work? Really understanding what outcomes you need. What AI do we want? Do we need a customer facing? Do we have I see so many, credit unions and banks, their self-service is awesome, right? There's integrations into the core already. They can do a ton of different things, from filling out a loan application to getting account balances to move money around to pay credit cards. They can do all this stuff. Why spend a ton of money, right, to maybe redo that with, I don't know, better voice, add some FAQs in there? So I think you have to be kind of careful. And again, there's some things that I'm missing here from maybe voice biometrics and kind of those really cool things. But be careful and start to think through, what do we really need, other than, are we just going to check a box to say that we have AI? Look at your security and your policies. What is your threshold for this? What do you allow? What kind of is your company allowing you to do? How you're going to QA your AI, and then again, be careful on the demos. Right? There's some scary stuff out there that is made to look really, really, really cool. All right, and again, let's talk about from an SMB standpoint. Where are we today? Right? So I think there's another misunderstanding of AI for most people is that chatbot, right? That bot that's going to take over and do full self-service. That's what people are thinking when they hear AI. But what they don't realize is that a lot of the tools that they're utilizing now are being infused with AI and being infused with AI features. And if you start to use these tools in different ways, you can kind of bridge that gap between what we really need from a, that what we think AI is to what the tools that we have right now, right? And we can kind of bridge that so that you're still saving money. You're still having a better experience for your agents, better experience from your customers. Hey, Nate, what's up, buddy? Good to see you back in the Philippines. Nice. I got to come out and visit. I got to get to India. I got to get to the Philippines. I got to get over there. See what's going on now. But again, if you look at these legacy tools, workforce management, workforce intelligence, analytics, RPA, advanced routing, all of these things like we've been able to do for a long time are starting to get really good and better because they're being infused with AI, and you can start to use them in different ways. Again, looking at, workforce intelligence, right? Having your CCAS model be able to basically be that call center, we call it mission control, right? Where they're the ones that are kind of routing calls based on set business rules of service level, average handle time, how good this agent is, what's the analytics and the sentiment say about this agent, taking in all of this data that a human being couldn't and sending that call to the right agent at the right time, right? Not just using the next available agent, right? But actually looking at all the data, right? That maybe even an agent or a customer has in their CRM, right? To see maybe if there is a high value customer, if there's someone who's definitely having a different issue, right? Moving them kind of like I don't know, just moving them in that line, right? So we're not just kind of doing that same old thing. If you're waiting the longest, you go here, right? I think that there's a lot that we can do there that is happening with AI that people don't think about, right? But workforce intelligence that every CCAS has, from Five9 to Genesis to CX1, they call it all a little bit different, but those tools are getting really cool. Workforce management is getting awesome. It's getting badass. The forecasting availability and the tools that come with the forecasting with workforce management now that it's kind of AI infused is really, really good. So again, those are all some legacy tools that we can start to play with from an AI standpoint, right? And maybe start to check the box of kind of moving down that road. Right. The next thing is we have our agent tools, right? You have agent assist, you have kind of the real-time analytics, supervisor assist. That's what I was trying to find earlier, right? Looking at things to help the agent, right? To either pop verbiage, make them look at something, or if an agent or a customer says something, to have that information, boom, already there for the agent. I think is a very mature, if anything's mature, those are the tools that I think are the most mature. And how you kind of start that roadmap. I think I feel more comfortable moving from the agent experience out. And that's kind of where that is. Then kind of you have that next set of tools, which is kind of starting to really get more AI. Agent assist is pretty AI, but it was there really before AI, just looking at kind of keywords. But when you talk about things like auto summarization, when you talk about things like auto QA, role playing with education using AI and LLMs, that stuff is here now as well, right? Not that expensive, can add a ton to your bottom line. But again, this kind of goes back as well as looking at what tools do we need, right? What problems are we trying to solve, right? I just keep using that example. I see it all the time. People are spending, 10 cents an interaction, 9 cents an interaction, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up for auto summarization when they have an after call work of like 10 seconds, right? And very little memoing. Right. So if you have a 2-minute after call work and you need to have perfect memos, right, because you're a pharmaceutical company and you have to have, different names for your drug products, like that all makes sense. Right. You don't want the agents to make those those mistakes. Right. And then we start to get into kind of where we are with chatbots. Right. Looking at the IVAs, looking at kind of the role-based chatbot, and then moving into the LLM, which there's a lot of ways to go there. But I think it's still a little bit nerve-wracking in the SMB world, and still crazy expensive in the SMB world to really have that as kind of your main source of service. So we have to be kind of just careful on kind of where we go with that. The other thing that I've been talking about a lot is the tools that we have today are not going to be the tools that we have tomorrow. So when everybody says you're falling behind, it's kind of like, I don't know, this is probably a bad example, but my dad was a huge World War II guy. And I always remember, he'd always have these conversations. We'd watch these shows on how, the United States, speaking of the Philippines, right, in the Pacific, we would island hop, right? We wouldn't hit every single island, right? And it's the same thing with AI. It's not like this linear map that you have to have this tool, then you go to this tool, then you go to this tool, then you go to this tool. No, you can have this tool, skip these tools, and then go to this tool. And so again, that's why I think it's so much more important to prepare yourself with the KMS, with the integrations, with doing all that now, because the tools that we're going to have in 2026, they're going to be so much better than what we have today, right? And it's not like you didn't have the tool in 2024. We can't give you that one, right? Right? There's going to be real-time language support, right? Like I think Nate, as you're talking about with translations, like that stuff's kind of here now. That's getting really, really good. Really the ability, and there's a lot of. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's amazing. I know a lot of people are having some kind of ethical issues with it, right? Like that, having an agent in India or in the Philippines actually sound like somebody who's, in the, I don't know, Oklahoma, right? And have that drawl or a New York accent. I think it's awesome. I think it's a great use of technology. But I think that stuff is really starting to come, right? Getting into more predictive analytics. Right, kind of the stuff what I was talking about with workforce intelligence, but kind of on steroids, like looking at all of your everything that you've posted online, everything that you have on Facebook, everything that you've ever kind of talked about the company, looking at their CRM, like taking all of that data, right, and then kind of being proactive with what you may need from a self-service standpoint, and then also what agent should you go to, and also looking at when you call, predicting why you're calling. And I think we're getting better and better with that as more and more data kind of comes into play. We're starting to understand customers better. That stuff's coming. But I think the dashboard thing is going away, which I think is, for me, is really cool, right? So currently we have if you're a CCaaS player, you got a dashboard with your your service level for that for us being a BPO. For this client, we have a service level. We have calls in queue. We have how many agents. What is the agents? What calls are they on? What is their state? How many calls are we taking for the day? Blah blah blah. That whole thing. You're just going to start to ask questions, right? And it's going to build models for you and build dashboards for you. I'm sure we'll still have a dash, right? But think about asking, coming into work and being like, hey, can you tell me what was my service level like for me being a BPO? What was my service level on our top 5 busiest clients? Can you also tell me what agents had the best sentiment and who had the best handle time yesterday? And then what agents really struggled on their QA? Can you pop them? And can you make sure that I have 5 or 4 things that they struggled with yesterday? Right? Those kind of voice activated dashboards, those type of things, to really almost use it like really your assistant, Jarvis, right? That's from Iron Man, right? Kind of like having that, like that's starting to come, right? Especially in the contact center world, where we're not just looking at those efficiency metrics, but looking at quality metrics, looking at integrations, looking at sales data, having all that data together, and then being able to kind of ask questions on it too, I think is something, right? Voice is coming. It's a pretty big drawback too right now with our auto QA, right? We have a sentiment prompt that I think works extremely well, but it's still not voice driven, right? The technology is not there yet for full voice, but that's coming, and I think that's coming this year. In fact, I'm disappointed that it's not been here already. There's a lot that we can do with it when it comes to looking at sarcasm, looking at wait times or silence on calls, looking at just the tone of the agent, right? I think that really starts to get kind of sewn into even auto QA as a much higher level percentage of accuracy once we have that. And look at the Internet of Things, right? Looking at AI talking to AI. I think, that stuff's really cool, right? Having your refrigerator, the light bulb go out. Everybody kind of heard that example, right? And then again, just going and sending a message to the AI at Maytag or whatever, and then having one just automatically shipped to your house, right? To having machines start to talk to machines from a service model so that humans don't even have to get involved with it. I think that technology is coming. And again, looking at like video avatars and all of that kind of crazy stuff, that's kind of the next generation of AI, I think is there too. So again, there's so much cool stuff that's going to happen that you're going to have your house in order, right? It's people, again, I'm going off on a tangent on this, but you think you're getting ahead because you bought a chat bot, you have an FAQ, and you have that on your website, but you have no KMS, you have very little integrations, but you think you're ahead? Or is the company that is working really hard to build out, even with a 1 or 2 person team, to build out a full KMS that's taken 6 months to do that's now integrating their Zoho, their Zendesk with their CCaaS, with an SQL server that has a bunch of sales data, having all that integrated, utilizing all of their CCaaS data to kind of think through issues and problems that customers have. Who's really ahead in the AI game? Like it's not even close. So we got to think this through logically and not just say we got to go get a tool. We got to be prepared for the tools to use it to its full capacity. I think that's something that's really, really, really important. Let me just check my notes here. Yeah. So again, I mean, I think to sum this bad boy up, I think, again, I've been thinking a lot about this. Again, I've been seeing a lot of BS on LinkedIn where a lot of companies are trying to sling products. There's a lot of white papers out on giant, huge companies that are, utilizing AI. And again, remember, the larger companies can afford it. The larger companies have the volume for the ROI for it as well. A lot of them are still struggling and will struggle with the knowledge and the things that we're still talking about. So use 2024, use 2025 as an SMB to get your house in order from an analytic, from a data standpoint, from a KMS, from an integration standpoint. I would say start to look at your agent tools to solve the questions or the issues that you have first. And then once you feel comfortable, start to move to that agent-facing AI. But I think you do that last. If you really want to do AI right, that's at least what we're trying to kind of instill here at 𝗕𝗂𝗡 with our customers, to make sure that if they don't have their ducks in a row from a knowledge standpoint, we're helping them with that. But if they do, then let's talk about what problems we can solve with AI and not just say, hey, let's slap some stuff on there. So again, this is like the forefront of me, right? And I get fired up. I just have a couple posts on LinkedIn over the past couple of days too that I probably should have took down, but it just gets me fired up when I see like even AI driven posts that don't help anybody and they just try to sell, and we're going to make the same mistakes we made with the IVR and we made with email and we made with all of these kind of self-service, messiahs that were going to come and just totally take the agent away and make customer experience amazing. I think if we do this one right, we're going to be in a really, really good spot as an industry from a customer experience standpoint. But if we do it wrong, and I'm starting to see the same mistakes being made over and over again, we're going to be back to technology goes up, CX scores go down, right? And that's something that we don't want to do. So again, any questions, anything? I have a new book. It's called False Hustle. You can find it on Amazon. Just talking about kind of what I'm talking about here, what is real, but as it relates to QA, what questions, how to set up a scorecard that is, I think, for 2024, 2025 and beyond. I'm really proud of it. So check that out if you get a chance. Any questions? Love to talk to you about any outsourcing, especially if you're a USA looking for USA outsourcing at 𝗕𝗂𝗡. And then check out our auto QA product as well, OTTOQA.com. All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you. Talk to everybody next week.